Okay, so actually wanted to use this particular project. There's nothing here. It's one of the kids that I'm teaching, and she was able to build all these page. She's trying to build some projects. She's still playing around it. But I'll pick one of the HTML page and use the HTML page to build a fresh project. Let me see what's on my page. So, okay, something is there already. Let me see page 11. So 11 is empty. Page 11 is empty. All right. So what we are going to do is I'm going to review that form. I'm going to review that HTML form. But I'm thinking if I should use Bootstrap. Okay. Let me see. Bootstrap and favicon icon. No, let's just go straight first. Let's deal with JavaScript. So let me create the HTML boilerplate stuff. HTML. So head and body. So don't forget the head is where we add make some connections to external sources and external libraries, styling as well. So that's what you do with your head. And you can also use the head to add the title of your document. So what we need to do now is create our styling page. It's supposed to be linked from here. So link rel. Then we have style sheet. Right. So we have href. I'm going to name it style.css. Yes, style.css. I've not yet created a file, but it doesn't mean that I cannot use the name. Right. So all I have to do is now. Yeah, that's what I'm about to do. I want to create it. So style.css. So it's created now. This is style.css. All right. All right. So last time I mentioned the form, right? And I said we need to use a form tag to create all those username and password should live inside the form. All right. So we'll create a label. The label will help us to tell the user what the box underneath the username stands for. All right. So label we should just like p tag, but we use label because it's the label for the next input, which is this input tag where they are going to type their username. So we're creating a box now where they will input their username. And this box has we are going to define the data type that we expect the user to input into the box. So we want the data type to be text, which means combination of alphabets and numbers and some extra special character. So this is where we were last week. Yeah, this was first step we took last week. So I'm going to save it and display it on the browser. So you get a feel of what we are trying to achieve. So that's page 11. So let me share my screen. that page. Minute, let's try to share the page. Okay, so that's it. This is the label, and this is the input type text. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is go back to my code. Right. So I can give my form an ID, but I don't want to give out my form an ID. My form is the tag name, and tag names are automatically recognized by styling. So if I go to CSS, so I can just use the tag name without using a dot sign or hash symbol. Right. So I can give the box a background color, which is a form. I can give the form a background color of okay. So I can give the form a background color of yellow green. Save it. Go back to our browser and preview it. So that's our form stretching from the beginning to the end. This is because every tag, all tags in HTML uses the entire width by default. All right, so we have to break it into 4 places. So we're going to use 400 px. That should end somewhere around here. All right, so let's go back to our code. So I'm going to change the width 400 px. So save it. Go back, check again. Refresh. That's 400 px, right? So we need to move the content away from here. Since this is our entire body, the body can act as a parent that is already carrying this child element. So you can go straight to the body and give it an align, text align center. All right. So I'm going to make it, put it at the top for hierarchy reasons. So body, curly brace, then text align center. Okay, so share screen. Okay, so okay, I need to also it's not moving exactly where I want it to. So let me just use a different pattern. There are different ways you can do this. Okay, if it's not working, you can use
Are you trying to move the text or you're trying to?
no, I'm moving everything. Yeah, the entire div. Yes, I can just give the div and the form. Just say okay, form margin. Can have margin from top. Can add a margin of 200 px. 200 px from top and margin left. Can also add since I'm looking for 400 px width, so I can add 400 px. Move away from the left hand side within a distance of 400 px as well. So on this, fresh. Okay. So top 200 for left 400 px. All right. So now we have to work on our form a little bit. Okay. So I need to increase the height of the form. All right. So I'll go back to my code, change the height.
Sorry, it's for your friend to achieve.
Huh?
Is that what you're trying to achieve? The move in between?
I'm trying to create a form, a login form, user login form.
The one thing is where the text is located. Is that what you want, or you still have to adjust?
I think your
The one that you need at the center, is that supposed to be what you're trying to achieve, or you're just trying to amend?
no, that's the center. You're talking of the center, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's the center. I use a 200 px from top left. There are different ways we can handle this. You can use flex, display flex. If you set your body to display flex, then you can use text align items, center, center items. You justify the content center, align item center through the body. But we'll use that for a different project. But for now, I just decided to use margin top 200 space from the top, the margin right left, move away from the left hand side. That's what this one is. So it acts like centering the object. That's just it. Most times you want to use margin from the left and right, to get a very good balance. It depends on the uh, users. Uh, it depends on the specification of the site, how the owners want the site to be. And another thing is responsive view. I'm still going to teach you people how to stop using this PX. All right, but for now, because it's just one of those things we begin with, it's very easy to understand. So the pixels pattern of increasing and positioning items sometimes is not really a good practice, in the sense that sometimes when you resize your screen, for example now, if I go to my browser, and as you're looking at this now, if I minimize, so if I restore, then I push this, if I drag this like this, you can see that this object is not moving. So it's cropping off that particular area. So it's not a good practice. So but for now, I'm just trying to work on JavaScript and show you. You need to also learn what you call responsive design, so that when you are stretching your browser, the object should be able to respond by moving towards the area that is free, that is there, and still have enough space for viewing the object or element. Then another thing is that even when you're moving, you are working on that. There's another one that when you can help your browser, your element to detect the size of your browser, such that when you drag to this point, if you have three objects, I've explained this one before, if you have three boxes, two will be at the top, one will go to the next line. When you further drag it again downwards, so it will now lay out one per column, one per column, one per column. So that's just how it works. Okay, but for now, I just wanted to take home the JavaScript aspect, which is what we are concentrating on. I don't want to mix this class for any reason, because you need to really catch the JavaScript. The CSS is not as difficult as JavaScript, but CSS was very technical as well. So use margin top to add a spacing from the top. Use margin left to add spacing from the left to push the object away from the left-hand side of the screen into the middle part. That's also what I did. You still have question?
So what if you reduce margin left, let's say 200?
Okay. If I reduce my
Is it basically for the piece or for the whole item?
no, it will move. You see, I'm working with the form alone, just the form tag. So everything inside the form will respond. So now if I reduce it to 100 and I save it, go back to my browser. And I refresh it. You can see this is 100. By default, this is 100.
Okay.
So if I increase by 400, it will add this spacing by, it will multiply by 3. Yes.
Okay.
So let me go back and set it. So I said we need to give it height. So remember, if you want to give it height, I can also give it like 400 px as well. So height 400 px, width 400 px. That's it. So I just increase the height from here down. I don't know if you understand. Do you get it? Are you there, Miss Obi?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so you understand this part, right?
Yes, I do.
So the next thing we're going to do is we need to create a space within the box itself. So in that case, we are going to add padding to the box, to the form. Padding means we want
That's
to
adding.
padding. We want to pad it. So we don't want the text, the element inside to be getting close to the walls, the top wall, the left wall, all around. So we need to pad it by creating a space from here. We can pad it up to this point. So all the text will become
Sorry to interrupt. You say adding or padding?
padding, P-A-D-D, padding. So what padding does is helps to add some spacing in between inside the box, all right? So you can go to the form and say padding top. Let's go back to code.
I can't see your thing.
Okay. So we just add padding. This is the form. We want to add padding that is facing all around this wall. So we can say padding from the top. I don't want text to be too close to my wall, so I'm trying to create the padding of about 50 px. Save it. So then 50 px. Let's preview my browser. You see that this element have left this particular area because the box has a restriction that no element should go beyond this area. So it has set its padding around this area. So the HTML element has gone down. Okay. Now we can also go back to our code again. So what we need to do is go back to our HTML. I have this. I can just copy this. So label transport. Impute type transport. So go back. Okay, so you can see these elements are sitting side by side. All right, so we need to separate both elements. So what you need to do is different ways. Most of students, because they are beginners, they normally use the BR tag. There's a better way to do this. I won't recommend that you do the BR tag. Okay, but I will show you this. BR remains break. Control C. All right, so you can see BR tag that I added here has moved the file downwards. So if I add another BR tag, it will add extra space. Let's see that. What is taking this for? So if I add another BR tag here, like pressing your enter button was in code form. Okay, so yeah, see the extra spacing. All right, so
The number of the BR, the number of the break determines the space.
yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah. So now I'm also going to show you the other way that we can do this. I thought you flex before, and what flex helps us to do is to rearrange items. Items inside divs. This is a div, all right, and this is the parent div. We want to create child div, so we just open a div tab inside it, close it, and I can just say child. All right. So if I want second child element, I can just select this one. and that is the second child. All right. So now each of these div is going to have an ID called ch1. ID ch. And this is the parent of these two with ch1 and this one. ID parent. So ID1 and ID2, I'm going to give both of them a width height of 100 by 100, 100 width, 100 height. So ch1 width 100, so 100 px. 100 px. So I'll copy it for the second bit. H2. Guess these names are correct. Then I'll give them a background color. I want to show you something that is very, very key. So I'm going to save this to view it on my screen. Yeah, so I've created two components. You can see the boxes 100 width, 100 height. All right, so I want this box to stay here by the side. All right, so by default, the div is automatically broken. So I want this div to come here. So if I want to do that, I'll have to use my JavaScript to do that. Okay. A minute later. Mr. Tolu said he's unable to log in. I guess this is network. They've
Oh,
raised the class and the recording should get. So now I want to show you something. Instead of using BR, because sometimes it's not a professional way of doing it. So you need to use this parent to reposition these two elements. That
so
is
will you
why,
delete here?
yeah, you need to use this parent ID to reposition these elements.
What I'm saying, so you're gonna remove the BR, right? The one on top.
Yeah, that is, you see, this form is for the green box. This one is covering the two boxes at the bottom, just underneath the form. So once I'm done with this, I'll use the system here to reposition this. So I want to use this to show you how it works. Okay. div ID here, parent, I'm going to set the display of its child element to flex. All right. Okay, so go back to style.css, and then I'm going to call the parent. Parent should be here, and ID hash kr. So par. Then I have what's called display flex. All right. You save this.
But it was already typed. Now the CH1, you already typed it.
Yes, I've already typed them now. I'm just using the parent, which is wrapping the CH1 and CH2. This one now. If I set the display to flex, it will move this to this side. So it can now set them to display side by side. All right. And that is just what I want to achieve. The reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to reposition it again at the top. I'm going to use the same thing again. So just this you can see this one. This is the first child, this CH1, this is CH2. So now that I've set the invisible div that you cannot see, which is the parent, I've set it to flex. So it will position them side by side. That's the display flex of the parent. Once you set it, it displays the item side by side like this. This explanation is in my video, one of the videos that I created. Okay, it's there. All right, so now these elements, if you don't want to use the arrow, you set the display to flex. Then you can now set it to column. All right, let's go back to our code. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, I'll save it, and then I'll go back to the browser. I'll refresh. So you can see. So since the form is the parent of this particular child element, I'm going to give the form the display of flex. All right. Back to next one. So form, go to CSS. Go to form, display, flex. All right. So what will happen once I display it as flex? It will, by default, it aligns all these items side by side, and that is what we try to do. You can see all elements are beginning to line up side by side because each element is a separate box. All right, and this is not what we really want. Okay, so we flex it quite all right, but we are going to change the flex direction, right, to column because this is row. So there is another attribute called flex direction. All right, so this should be row. Right? Row.
So now at this point now, all those margin top left, does it still matter?
Yes, margin top, whatever it does, but sometimes it might conflict, but we'll just find a way to readjust it. So let's see our outcome then. No, there are any issues. Margin top is still there, as you can see. Okay. Okay. I think flex direction should we follow? transfer direction. And I just sometimes get this kind of stuff. Share my browser. Okay, so press direction button. All right, so now we can um, use the ID to do the manipulation. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a kind of margin or space in between. My video, the recorded class is 1 minute long. So let's just rejoin. Let's go back. So rejoin, and then I'll make a fresh adjustment for you. So even if this video is what you see here is this one, you can just do this. When we rejoin, we know what to do. Then I'll know if I should just do this.